Your role no longer exists. The words came from my manager, Thomas Brennan, delivered in a conference room I'd walked past 1,000 times. His voice was flat, cryptic, like he'd rehearsed this moment in his bathroom mirror. I don't understand, I said. The company is restructuring. Your position has been eliminated. Effective immediately. He shuffled papers without looking at me. HR will explain the severance package. Patricia from HR sat beside him, nodding with practiced sympathy. We appreciate your contributions, but this decision is final. I'd been with the company for 4 years. Built systems that ran half the department. Trained 3 people who still ask me questions daily. And now, without warning, I was being erased. Can I ask why? It's not performance-related, Thomas interrupted quickly. Too quickly. Just organizational changes. My hands went numb. I thought about my mortgage. My daughter's college applications. The project I'd stayed late finishing just yesterday. You'll need to pack your desk today, Patricia said gently. Security will escort you. Security. Like I was a threat. As I stood to leave, I heard Thomas exhale, a sound of relief. Then to Patricia. She won't be a problem. Those words stayed with me all the way to my desk. Packing my desk felt like dismantling my own life. 4 years condensed into a cardboard box. Photos of my daughter. Coffee mug from the team appreciation event. The award I'd received for process innovation. Around me, co-workers pretended to work. Eyes flicked toward me, then away. No one spoke. No one offered comfort. They were calculating their own survival. Security, a young guard named Marcus, stood 3 feet behind me. His presence transformed me from trusted employee to potential criminal in seconds. Take your time, he said quietly. The only kindness I'd received today. I reached for a file folder in my drawer. I checked my digital files. Access denied. They'd already stripped my permissions. Removed my name from systems I'd built. Someone had prepared for this. Planned it. Made sure I couldn't take anything with me. Thought back to last week. Thomas had asked me to document my processes thoroughly. For our team handbook. He'd said it was for continuity planning. I'd spent hours writing detailed guides. Step-by-step instructions. Every password, every workaround, every system I'd created. I'd trained my replacement without knowing it. And that's when I noticed the date on my file permissions. Access revoked 3 days ago. This wasn't sudden. This was choreographed. For weeks earlier, everything had seemed normal. I was reviewing quarterly reports when Thomas stopped by my desk. Unusual, he rarely left his office. Hey Alex. Got a minute? Sure. He pulled up a chair, smiling. Friendly. I've been thinking about how much institutional knowledge you have. It's impressive. Thanks. No, really. You've built so much here. I want to make sure we're capturing it properly. He leaned forward. Can you walk me through your workflow? The vendor management system especially. How you built it, how it runs, everything. I spent an hour explaining. He took notes, asked detailed questions. At the time I felt valued. Appreciated. This is great, he said finally. Can you document all of this? Create a comprehensive guide. Of course. Perfect. Oh, and one more thing. He paused as if the thought just occurred to him. The reporting structure. How do you decide what escalates to me versus what you handle directly? Strange question. I've been doing this for years. He knew the answer. I use the decision matrix we created, I said. Right, but walk me through your specific reasoning. The nuances. I did. In detail. He thanked me and left. Now, sitting in my car with my boxed belongings, I understood. He hadn't been appreciating my knowledge. He'd been extracting it. Every detail. Every process. Every decision framework. He'd been preparing to operate without me. 2 weeks before my termination, I'd sat in a leadership meeting. Thomas presented our department's achievements to the executive team. Metrics I'd tracked. Systems I'd designed. efficiencies I'd created. "We've reduced vendor processing time by 43%, he announced, displaying my dashboard. "And cut errors by 67%. Applause around the table. "Thomas, this is exactly what we need," the CFO said. "How did you implement this?" "It took careful planning," Thomas replied smoothly. "We redesigned the entire workflow, integrated automation, and created accountability checkpoints." He said we. I sat in the back of the room where he'd asked me to sit. "Just to support if there are technical questions," he'd said. No one asked me anything. The CEO leaned forward. "This is impressive work. What's your confidence level that we can sustain these improvements?" Thomas smiled. "Very high. The processes are now well documented. The risk is minimal. Risk is minimal." Those words echoed in my head now. I wasn't a risk because I might leave. I was a risk because I knew too much. I built everything. I could testify that Thomas had taken credit for my work. So he eliminated the risk. After the meeting, the CFO had pulled Thomas aside. I saw them through the glass conference room wall. Smiling. Shaking hands. Thomas had received a promotion announcement the next day. My termination came exactly 1 week later. 10 days before I was fired, my colleague Keisha had asked me something strange. We were getting coffee in the break room. She stirred her cup slowly, not meeting my eyes. "Alex, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Have you updated your resume lately?" I laughed. "Why would I? I'm not looking for anything." She didn't laugh back. "Just. It's good to keep it current. You never know." "Keisha, what's going on?" "Nothing. Forget I said anything." She grabbed her coffee and left quickly. At the time, I dismissed it as paranoia. Office gossip. Keisha was always worried about something. Now I understood. She'd seen the signs. Pattern. Maybe she'd even overheard conversations I wasn't supposed to hear. She'd tried to warn me. And I'd laughed it off. Loyalty over instincts. That was my mistake. I trusted that 4 years of excellent performance, of going above and beyond, of building systems that worked. I trusted that mattered. Didn't. Keisha had resigned exactly 1 week after that conversation. Her exit was sudden. No goodbye party. No farewell email. She'd gotten out before whatever storm she saw coming. I'd stayed. Confident in my value. Certain that my contributions protected me. 3 days after Keisha left, Thomas had started asking his detailed questions about my processes. Now, driving home with my boxed belongings in the trunk, I finally connected the dots. Keisha knew. She tried to tell me. And I'd been too naive to listen. The day before my termination, Thomas had called me into his office. "Alex, I just want to say thank you." His voice was warm. Almost emotional. "You've been such an asset to this team. Your dedication is really appreciated. Thank you. That means a lot. I know you've been working hard on the documentation project. Take tomorrow morning off. Sleep in. You've earned it." I'd been surprised. Thomas rarely acknowledged overtime, let alone offered time off. "Are you sure?" I was going to finish the vendor onboarding guide. "It can wait. Seriously, take the morning. Come in after lunch if you want." I'd gone home feeling valued. Appreciated. That evening I'd received a calendar invite. From HR. Subject line. Quick sync. Time, 10 a.m. the next day. No agenda. No context. Just a 30-minute meeting with Patricia and Thomas. I thought maybe it was about the promotion cycle. Or the process documentation project. Something routine. I'd accepted the invite without concern. Now I understood. Thomas had offered me the morning off so I wouldn't be in the office when my termination was being prepared. So I wouldn't notice colleagues being warned. So I wouldn't see files being transferred to someone else. The kindness was tactical. The calendar invite was my execution notice. And I'd walked into that conference room completely unprepared, trusting that quick sync meant something harmless. The rehearsal in his voice. The relief when I left quietly. The precision of the timing. Thomas had orchestrated every detail. At home, I sat at my kitchen table staring at nothing. Shock gave way to anger. I replayed every conversation, every interaction, every moment. I should have seen this coming. Thomas asking for process documentation. The leadership meeting where he took credit. Keisha's cryptic warning. The unexpected kindness the day before. All of it carefully planned. And the timing, it nagged at me. I pulled out my laptop and checked the company calendar. Next week, the annual internal audit was scheduled. The one where department heads had to justify their budgets and headcount. I'd been scheduled to present our vendor management metrics, my systems, my improvements, but now I wouldn't be there. Thomas would present, take full credit. No one to contradict him or provide context about who actually built everything. My termination wasn't about budget cuts or restructuring. It was about removing me before I could speak to auditors, before I could claim ownership of my work, before anyone could question the narrative Thomas was building. My phone buzzed. Email notification. Unknown sender. Opened it. Subject. Exit interview documentation. Attached. A PDF labeled, Torza, final.pdf. My heart stopped. This wasn't addressed to me. The email was from HR to someone named k.sullivan@corporate.com. Had been sent to me by mistake. Wrong recipient. I opened the attachment with shaking hands. The exit interview summary was 3 pages long. Except I'd never had an exit interview. Employee, Alexandria Torres. Position, Operations Coordinator. Termination date, today's date. Reason, position elimination, role deemed non-essential. Non-essential. I'd built the vendor management system from scratch. Created reporting dashboards used by 3 departments. Trained everyone on the team. Non-essential. The document continued. Employee expressed understanding of the decision and agreed the role had become redundant due to process automation and managerial oversight improvements. I'd said no such thing. I'd barely spoken in that conference room. Employee acknowledged performance had been adequate but position no longer aligned with organizational needs. Adequate. 4 years of exceeding every metric reduced to adequate. Then buried in the second page. Employee confirmed all process documentation was complete and verified that workflows could be maintained without dedicated headcount in this area. They were using my documentation project against me, claiming I'd agreed my own position was unnecessary. But the final paragraph made my blood run cold. Per management request, employees' access to all systems was revoked 72 hours prior to notification to ensure business continuity and prevent any potential disruption. 3 days before they fired me, they'd already decided, already removed my access, already prepared to operate without me. This wasn't a decision. It was an execution plan. And they'd documented it as if I'd agreed to my own elimination. Except they'd sent it to the wrong email address. I didn't respond to the email. I didn't call HR to point out their mistake. Didn't alert them that I had documentation they never intended me to see. Instead, I saved everything. Downloaded the PDF to 3 locations. My personal laptop, a USB drive, and cloud storage. I forwarded the email to my personal account with a timestamp. Then I went through my sent emails from my work account, the ones still accessible from my phone before they cut off remote access. I found every message where I'd reported metrics. Every email showing I'd built systems Thomas now claimed as his own. Every conversation where I'd flagged problems and proposed solutions. I downloaded them all. Spreadsheets showing my work. Performance reviews praising my initiatives. Meeting notes where I'd presented ideas that became department policy. 3 hours of careful documentation. No emotion, just facts. By midnight I had a complete record. Timeline. Evidence. Proof that the non-essential role had been essential. That the redundant employee had been irreplaceable. I organized it into a folder labeled simply Employment Record. Then I checked the company website. The organizational chart had already been updated. My name removed. My position eliminated. But Thomas's title had changed. Senior Director of Operations and Process Excellence. The processes I'd built. The excellence I'd created. Now officially his. I closed my laptop and slept for the first time in 20 hours. Tomorrow, I'd decide what to do with what I knew. The exit interview document contained one critical flaw. Page 2, paragraph 4. Employee's role became redundant following successful automation of vendor management workflows, reducing manual oversight requirements. Except the automation metrics cited, 43% efficiency gain, 67% error reduction. Those were only possible because of constant manual oversight. My oversight. The systems required daily monitoring, exception handling, vendor relationship management that no algorithm could replace. I knew this because I'd written the process documentation they'd forced me to create. I'd specifically noted, system requires daily review by qualified operations coordinator to maintain performance standards. Their own records contradicted their justification. But the real problem was deeper. On page 3, they referenced my most recent performance review. Employee consistently met expectations with adequate performance in core responsibilities. I pulled out my actual performance review from 6 months ago. The one Thomas had signed. Alexandria Torres. Exceeds expectations. Exceptional initiative in developing vendor management automation. Recommend for advancement and compensation increase. 2 completely different assessments. Both signed by Thomas. Both in official records. They'd fabricated my exit interview and contradicted my documented performance history. Why would they risk creating such obvious inconsistencies? Unless they never expected anyone to compare the documents. My phone buzzed. Company-wide email. Announcement. Internal audit and compliance review scheduled for next week. All department heads must submit updated process documentation and performance metrics by Friday. There it was. They'd eliminated me before the audit. Before anyone could ask me direct questions about who built what. Before I could present metrics that proved my value. Thomas would present my work as his own. Use my documentation to demonstrate his leadership. Take credit for everything. And with me gone, no one could contradict him. Except now I had proof they'd lied about why I was terminated. I spent the weekend applying for jobs. By Monday morning I had 3 interviews scheduled. By Wednesday I had an offer. Better title. Senior Operations Manager. Better company. Competitors who'd tried to recruit me twice before. Better pay. 30% more than I'd been making. Accepted immediately. When can you start? They asked. 2 weeks. No notice period needed. No bridge to preserve. My former employer had burned that bridge when they escorted me out with security. I signed the offer letter and felt something shift. I wasn't vulnerable anymore. Wasn't dependent on their severance package or their references. I had leverage now. The next day, my former company's HR director called my personal phone. Alex, this is Patricia. We need some clarification on a few items related to your role transition. What kind of clarification? Just some questions about process documentation and system access. Could you come in for a quick meeting? I'm no longer employed there. I don't think that's appropriate. Silence on her end. Then, we'd be willing to offer a consulting fee for your time. I'm not interested. Alex, please. This is important. Then put it in writing. Send me specific questions via email and I'll consider responding. Hung up. An hour later, Thomas sent a text to my personal number. Hey, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to check in and see how you're settling in. Let me know if you need anything. The casual tone. The fake friendliness. He was panicking. I didn't respond. Days passed. I started my new job. Met my new team. Began building new systems with people who valued my expertise. My former company kept reaching out. Email from Patricia. Following up on documentation questions. Email from Thomas. Quick question about vendor workflows. Email from someone I'd never heard of. Requesting transition support. I deleted them all without responding. The power dynamic had shifted. They needed information I had. They needed me to validate Thomas's claims or fill gaps in the processes I'd built. And I gave them nothing. 2 weeks into my new role, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. Ms. Torres, my name is Bernard Klein. I'm conducting an internal audit for former company. I'd like to schedule a formal interview with you regarding the operations department processes. This is a standard part of our review. Would you be available this week? An investigator. Not HR. Not Thomas. An independent auditor. I replied. I'm available Friday at 2 p.m. Please send specific topics you'd like to discuss. His response came within an hour. Thank you. Primary topic. Can you explain why your position was eliminated 3 days before the scheduled department audit? My hands trembled as I read it again. He wasn't asking about processes. He was asking about timing. He suspected something. The interview was conducted via video call. Bernard Klein was in his 60s, with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Ms. Torres, thank you for your time. I want to be direct. I'm not investigating your performance. I'm investigating the circumstances of your termination. Okay. Your position was eliminated on date. The department audit was scheduled for date plus 4 days. That's unusually close timing. I noticed that too. Did anyone explain to you why the decision was made when it was? No. I was told it was organizational restructuring. Nothing about timing. And you'd been with the company how long? 4 years. With consistently strong performance reviews? Yes. Bernard pulled up a document on his screen. I have your last review here. Exceeds expectations. Exceptional initiative. Signed by Thomas Brennan 6 months ago. That's correct. And yet the exit documentation describes your performance as adequate and your role as non-essential. He looked at me directly. Does that alignment seem accurate to you? No. Why do you think there's a discrepancy? Pause. This was the moment. The choice between staying silent and speaking truth. I think, I said carefully, that I was removed before I could participate in the audit. Before I could answer questions about who developed the systems currently credited to department leadership. Bernard's expression didn't change, but he leaned forward slightly. Do you have documentation supporting that perspective? Yes. Would you be willing to share it? What exactly are you investigating? Potential misrepresentation of departmental capabilities and improper attribution of employee contributions. He paused. In simpler terms, whether someone is taking credit for work they didn't do. I thought about Thomas's promotion, his presentation to executives, his careful elimination of the one person who could contradict his narrative. I have documentation, I said. Emails, process records, performance reviews. Everything. I'd like to see it. I spent the next hour walking him through my evidence. The exit interview sent to me by mistake. The contradictions between my actual performance reviews and the termination documentation. The timeline showing my access revoked 3 days before I was notified. Bernard took notes silently, asked clarifying questions, requested copies of specific emails. When I finished, he sat back. Ms. Torres, do you still have access to any of these documents through official channels? No. Everything I'm showing you is from personal backups or emails sent to my private account. Including the exit interview summary? Yes. It was sent to me in error. Silence stretched between us. Then Bernard closed his notebook. Thank you. This has been very helpful. What happens now? I complete my investigation and report findings to the executive team. He paused. I should mention, you're not the first person to raise concerns about attribution issues in this department. Who else? I can't disclose that. But your testimony corroborates other reports we've received. After the call ended, I sat in silence. Someone else had spoken up. Someone else had noticed Thomas's pattern. I wasn't alone in this. I sent Bernard everything. Organized folders with clear labels. Performance reviews, official, exit documentation, misrepresented, process development, timeline, system ownership, email evidence. 37 documents total. Each one time-stamped. Each one proving a piece of the larger pattern. That I'd built systems now credited to Thomas. That my performance had been excellent, not adequate. That my termination timing was strategically designed to prevent audit participation. That the exit interview was fabricated. I included a cover memo summarizing the key points. Then I pressed send. For 10 minutes nothing happened. Then my phone rang. Bernard Klein. Ms. Torres, I've reviewed what you sent. His voice was tense. I need to ask. Have you shared this documentation with anyone else? No. Long pause. Can you keep it that way until I complete my investigation? Yes. The evidence you've provided. It's significant. More significant than I initially understood. Another pause. I'll need to escalate this beyond the department audit. This touches on potential ethics violations. What does that mean? It means the scope of my investigation just expanded considerably. He hesitated. Ms. Torres, are you prepared for what might come next? This could become very visible within the company. I'm no longer with the company. I'm insulated from retaliation. That's true. But visibility has other implications. Are you comfortable with that? I thought about Thomas presenting my work as his own. About being called non-essential, after 4 years of building everything that made his promotion possible. Yes, I said. I'm comfortable with truth. Good. I'll be in touch. The call ended. I sat in my new office in my new company with my new title. Protected. Positioned. Ready. Whatever came next, I'd face it from a position of strength. The following week, strange reports started filtering back to me. Former co-workers texting carefully worded messages. Something's happening. Lots of closed-door meetings. Thomas cancelled his calendar for the week. No explanation. HR is interviewing everyone individually. Asking about process development. They pulled all department documentation going back 2 years. The audit had expanded. Bernard's investigation was unfolding. And people were nervous. One message stood out. From Marcus, the security guard who'd escorted me out. I was asked about the day you were terminated. Specifically about the timing and what I observed. Thought you should know. They were reconstructing the timeline. Interviewing witnesses. Building a case. Then from Keisha, the colleague who'd warned me to update my resume. I was contacted by corporate investigators. They asked why I left when I did. I told them the truth. What truth? Texted back. That I'd overheard Thomas telling Patricia he needed to eliminate the attribution problem before the audit. That's when I knew someone was getting fired. I got out before I became a witness. My phone buzzed again. Bernard Klein. Ms. Torres, I need to schedule a follow-up conversation. Are you available tomorrow? Yes. Good. I'll also need you to be available for a formal interview with the executive team the following week. They have questions. About what specifically? About everything you've shared. The CEO wants to hear directly from you. After we hung up, I received an email from Patricia at my former company. Subject. Urgent, clarifying conversation needed. The body of the email was longer than her previous attempts. Alex, there seems to have been a misunderstanding regarding your exit documentation. We'd like the opportunity to clarify some items and discuss a potential resolution. Would you be available for a conversation with myself and senior leadership? We're prepared to discuss terms that would be mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial. They wanted to settle. To make this go away quietly. I forwarded the email to Bernard without responding to Patricia. His reply came immediately. Do not engage with them directly. All communication should go through the investigation process. I deleted Patricia's email. The clarifying conversation happened anyway, with Bernard present. I joined a video call with Patricia, the CFO, and someone from corporate legal. Alex, thank you for joining us, the CFO began. We've been reviewing your separation from the company and some concerns have been raised. What kind of concerns? Questions about the characterization of your exit. Some documentation may have been imprecise, not fraudulent, not fabricated, imprecise. The exit interview summary was completely false, I said directly. I never made those statements. I never agreed my role was non-essential. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. There may have been a miscommunication in how that was documented. There was no communication. I wasn't interviewed at all. The legal representative spoke up. We're prepared to acknowledge that the exit process didn't meet our standard protocols. We'd like to discuss amending your separation agreement to reflect a mutual separation rather than a position elimination. Why? To ensure accuracy in our records. Or to change the narrative before the audit findings are released. Silence. The CFO leaned forward. Alex, we recognize there were failures in how your departure was handled. We want to make this right. What would it take for you to consider this matter resolved? Resolved how? We're prepared to offer a revised severance package, positive employment references, and documentation stating the separation was mutual and amicable. In exchange for more silence. Finally, the legal representative spoke. In exchange for your agreement not to pursue any claims related to your termination and to refrain from discussing the circumstances with any parties outside this process. They wanted me silent. They wanted me to accept their revision of history, take their money and disappear. I looked directly at the camera. No. Alex, please reconsider. I'm not interested in rewriting what happened. I'm interested in truth. Think about what you're giving up. I'm not giving up anything. I have a better job, better pay, and a clear conscience. Pause. What I won't do is participate in covering up what actually happened. The CFO's expression hardened. You realize this investigation could reflect poorly on everyone involved. It should reflect poorly on the people who lied. Not the person who documented truth. I ended the call. Bernard texted immediately. Well handled. The formal investigation interview was scheduled for the following Tuesday. The executive team, CEO, CFO, and Chief Compliance Officer, Bernard would be present along with corporate legal. They're going to ask direct questions about Thomas Brennan's role in your termination, Bernard warned me beforehand. Answer honestly but stick to facts. No speculation. Understood. They're also going to ask whether you believe your termination was retaliatory. Was it? Based on the evidence. But they need to hear it from you. The interview was formal. Recorded. Serious. The CEO started. Ms. Torres, thank you for participating in this review. We're trying to understand the circumstances surrounding your separation from the company. I walked them through everything. Timeline. Evidence. Contradictions. The CFO asked. Do you believe Thomas Brennan directed your termination? Yes. On what basis? He extracted detailed documentation of my processes. He presented my work as his own to leadership. He ensured I was removed before the audit where I would have testified to my role in developing those systems. Pause. The timing wasn't coincidental. Do you have evidence he explicitly ordered your termination? I have evidence he created the conditions that made my termination necessary for his narrative to succeed. The Chief Compliance Officer spoke for the first time. Ms. Torres, are you aware that 2 other employees have made similar reports about Mr. Brennan taking credit for their work? No, I wasn't aware. Both were reassigned or terminated within months of completing major projects. Projects later credited to Mr. Brennan in his promotion justifications. Pattern. Not just me. A systematic approach to stealing credit and eliminating witnesses. The CEO closed his folder. Ms. Torres, based on what we've heard and the documentation provided, we're placing Mr. Brennan on administrative leave pending completion of this investigation. We'll be in contact as the process continues. After the call, Bernard sent me a single message. He's done. 2 days later, I received another call from my former company. This time from the CFO directly. Ms. Torres, we'd like to discuss bringing you back in a consulting capacity. Temporarily, to help with knowledge transfer and process stabilization. Why? Some gaps have emerged in our operational processes. We believe your expertise could help address them. Translation. Thomas had been faking competency. Now that he was suspended, they were discovering he didn't actually know how to run the systems I'd built. What's the rate? We're prepared to offer $200 per hour. Triple my former salary, calculated hourly. And the duration? We estimate 4 to 6 weeks. $24,000 minimum. Possibly more. I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. No. Ms. Torres, please. I have a full-time position. I'm not interested in consulting for a company that terminated me 3 weeks ago. We recognize the separation was handled poorly. It was handled fraudulently. Exit documentation was fabricated. My performance was misrepresented. I was removed to prevent me from contradicting false narratives. My voice stayed calm. I'm not interested in helping you fix problems created by your failure to value my contributions when I was employed there. We're prepared to increase the rate. This isn't about money. This is about trust. You eliminated my role, called me non-essential, escorted me out with security, and documented lies about my performance. Trust doesn't recover from that. Silence on his end. What would it take? He asked finally. Nothing. There's no amount you can offer. I've moved on. Hung up. For the first time since being fired, I felt completely free. They tried to erase me. Instead, they'd freed me from any loyalty or obligation. And now they were drowning without me. Another week passed. Reports continued filtering back. Thomas's systems are failing. 3 vendor contracts weren't renewed because nobody knew they were expiring. The automation dashboard crashed and nobody knows how to fix it. They're hiring 2 people to replace what you did alone. The non-essential role was proving rather essential. Then, the announcement I'd been waiting for. Company-wide email from CEO. Leadership changes in operations department. Thomas Brennan's employment has been terminated effective immediately. Interim leadership being appointed. Terminated. Not reassigned. Not administrative leave. Fired. The internal message board erupted. Speculation. Rumors. People connecting dots. I received messages from former colleagues. Did you hear? Thomas is gone. Everyone's saying it had to do with the audit. Did you know about this? People are talking about how he took credit for your work. Is that true? I didn't respond to any of them. But I did receive one message that mattered. From Keisha. You did it. You actually held them accountable. I'm sorry I left when I did. But I'm proud you stayed and fought. 2 hours after Thomas's termination announcement, he sent me a direct message. Alex, I need to talk to you. Please. This has gotten completely out of control. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I blocked his number. He'd had months to acknowledge my contributions. Years to operate with integrity. Weeks to tell the truth during the investigation. He'd chosen deception at every turn. Now he was facing consequences. And I had nothing to say to him. The company's public statement came 3 days later. Following an internal review, we've identified process failures in our operations department. We've implemented new oversight protocols and leadership changes to address these gaps. We remain committed to operational excellence and employee recognition. Vague. Corporate. Carefully worded to admit nothing specific. But industry insiders understood. Word spread through professional networks. Thomas Brennan's LinkedIn profile changed from Senior Director of Operations to Seeking New Opportunities. His departure wasn't quiet. It was visible. Former colleagues started connecting with me on LinkedIn. Sending messages. We always knew you built those systems. Thomas's presentation never made sense. You were the real expert. Sorry we didn't speak up when you were eliminated. I accepted the connections but didn't respond to the apologies. They'd been silent when it mattered, when speaking up might have cost them something. Now they were safe to acknowledge truth. But I'd learned. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. My new company announced my promotion. Senior Director of Process Innovation. The CEO wrote personally. Alex has demonstrated exceptional expertise and integrity. We're fortunate to have her leadership. A week after Thomas's firing, I received certified mail from my former company. Inside, a formal letter. Dear Ms. Torres, following our comprehensive review, we acknowledge that your separation from our company was handled improperly. Your contributions to operational excellence were substantial, and your role was incorrectly characterized as non-essential. We apologize for the failures in our process and the misrepresentation in your exit documentation. The letter went on for 2 pages. Apologies, acknowledgements, offers to correct my employment record. Too late. Too calculated. I filed it without responding. 3 months after my termination, the company released another statement. We've completed a comprehensive review of our operations department. As a result, we're implementing enhanced attribution protocols for employee contributions and strengthening our performance review processes. Translation. They discovered Thomas's pattern applied to more than just me. That same week, I got a message from someone I'd never met. Hi Alex, my name is Troy. I was terminated from company last year. I just found out about the investigation. Thomas Brennan took credit for a logistics system I built. They called my role redundant, right before the annual budget review. Your case gave them the evidence they needed to reopen mine. There were others. People Thomas had used and discarded. Each one credited with creating something he later claimed as his own. The pattern was clear now. Systematic. Deliberate. And my documentation, the evidence I'd compiled, the exit interview sent to me by mistake, had exposed all of it. I received a final message from Bernard Klein. Ms. Torres, the investigation is complete. Because of your willingness to come forward, we've identified and addressed a significant pattern of misconduct. 3 other employees have had their records corrected and received settlements. Your courage made that possible. Thank you. I sat with that message for a long time. I hadn't set out to be courageous. I just refused to let lies become truth. But in refusing, I'd protected people I'd never met. 4 months after my termination, Thomas sent me one final message. Not through block channels. Through LinkedIn. Professional. Public. Alex, I know you won't respond, but I need to say this. I'm sorry. What I did was wrong. I convinced myself I was just being strategic, but I was stealing your work and destroying your reputation. I cost you your job and your credibility. There's no excuse. I'm leaving this industry. Starting over somewhere else. I hope someday you can forgive me, but I understand if you can't. You deserved better. I read it 3 times. An apology. Finally. Too late to matter professionally, but present nonetheless. I didn't respond. Didn't acknowledge it. Didn't forgive or condemn. I simply noted that consequences had taught him what integrity hadn't. 2 weeks later, his LinkedIn profile disappeared entirely. Thomas Brennan had been erased from the industry he'd tried to dominate through theft and deception. Meanwhile, my profile showed a steady climb. Senior Director. Industry conference speaker. Published author on process excellence. Everything he'd tried to steal from me, I'd rebuilt bigger and better. Without him. Without them. Without anyone who'd chosen silence over truth. 1 year after my termination, I spoke at a leadership conference. My topic. Building systems that survive you. During the Q&A, someone asked, how do you protect yourself from leaders who take credit for your work? I thought about Thomas. About the exit interview. About the choice between silence and truth. Document everything, I said. Not because you expect to be betrayed, but because truth needs evidence. When someone tries to erase you, Your documentation speaks for you. What if you're afraid of retaliation? Fear is valid, but silence protects the wrong people. Speaking up might cost you something, but staying silent costs you everything. Your integrity, your truth, your self-respect. After my talk, a young woman approached me. I'm in your exact situation. My manager is taking credit for my project. I'm scared if I speak up, I'll lose my job. You might, I said honestly. But losing a job that requires your silence is different from losing one that values your voice. One is a career setback. The other is liberation. She nodded, eyes bright with unshed tears. What did you do after you were fired? I found a better job, built better systems, became someone nobody could erase. Pause. Turns out being underestimated is a superb advantage. People don't see you coming. She smiled then. Thank you. Document everything, I reminded her. Truth needs evidence. 18 months after my termination, I received an unexpected call. The CFO from my former company. Ms. Torres, I wanted to reach out personally. The systems you built are still core to our operations. We have a team of 3 managing what you did alone. And we're still finding efficiencies you built that we didn't fully understand. Why are you calling? Because at our executive retreat last month, your name came up. Someone asked who built the vendor management system. I said, Alexandria Torres. They asked where you were now. I had to admit we'd let you go. He paused. It was humbling. What do you want? Nothing. I just wanted you to know. Your work outlasted your employment. Your legacy is still visible. And we were fools to lose you. After he hung up, I sat in my office looking out at the city. My legacy. Still visible. Still valuable. Even in a place that had tried to erase me. 18 months ago, I'd packed my desk in shame while coworkers looked away. Now, executives were acknowledging I'd built what they couldn't replicate. The non-essential role had been irreplaceable after all. Thomas had stolen credit. But he couldn't steal competence. He'd taken my title. But he couldn't take my expertise. He'd erased my name from their systems. But my work remained undeniable and essential. And that was the final irony. In trying to claim my achievements as his own, he'd proven he didn't understand them well enough to maintain them. The truth had spoken. Loudly. Permanently. 2 years after my termination, I received an award. Excellence in Operations Innovation. Industry-wide recognition. Name. My achievements. My credit. In the audience sat my team from my new company. People who valued my expertise and credited my contributions. During my acceptance speech, I didn't mention my former company. Didn't reference Thomas. Didn't discuss the investigation or the vindication. I simply said, the most powerful thing you can do is build something so well that it speaks for itself. Systems that work. Processes that last. Solutions that endure. Your work is your signature. Make it impossible to erase. Afterward, a journalist asked for an interview. I heard you were terminated from your previous role right before receiving recognition for the work you're being honored for tonight. Want to comment? Smiled. Being underestimated gave me freedom. People who tried to erase me actually freed me to build something better elsewhere. Sometimes the most valuable thing someone can do for you is get out of your way. Any advice for people facing similar situations? Document the truth. Trust your value. And remember, you're never as disposable as someone wants you to believe. The work speaks. Eventually, loudly, and permanently. That night, I looked at the award on my desk. Name. My work. My credit. Nobody could take it. Nobody could claim it. Nobody could erase it. I'd walked out of that building with a cardboard box, thinking I'd lost everything. Instead, I'd lost the weight of working for people who didn't value truth. And I'd gained something better. Proof that integrity doesn't just survive. Thrives. Thomas had eliminated my role. But roles are temporary. What couldn't be eliminated was my competence, my documentation, and my refusal to let lies become history. The exit interview had reached the wrong person. And that mistake had changed everything.